Welcome, Army fans. This is Joe Iacono with GoBlackKnights.com, along with a very special VIP guest today, head coach Jeff Monken of the Army Black Knights. Coach Monken, how you doing this afternoon?
I'm great, Joe. Good to see you.
Thanks, you too. Before we get started, and I know that Charles has reached out to the Monken family along with myself on behalf of GoBlackKnights.com and the Army fans. We want to send our condolences out to you and your family surrounding the recent passing of your father, Michael Monken. Just wanted to say our thoughts and prayers are with the Monken family.
You're kind to do that. I appreciate it. My dad was a great guy. My dad was my high school coach. So, it's really neat to grow up that way. I grew up in a football family and played for my dad, which was a thrill for me in my playing career. And he's been with us, as you know, he's been with us the whole time. I mean, I don't know if
Absolutely. Been on a fixture on the sideline.
I've coached a lot of college football games, and both as an assistant and as a head coach. And every game that I've coached that my dad has attended, he's been on the sideline. So really neat to just have that experience with him and to be able to share this profession that we both really loved, and I continue to just consider a vocation. It was great to have my dad be a part of it with us.
That's awesome. Thanks, Coach. Following the season and despite the overtime win versus Navy, you decided that you needed to go in a different direction offensively, which led to the dismissal of longtime offensive coordinator Brent Davis and the eventual hiring of Drew Thatcher. So if you could, for the listeners out there, Coach, just talk about what prompted that decision and why did you decide that now was the right time to make the change?
Well, Coach Davis is a great friend of mine. We've known each other a long time, and he's an outstanding football coach. But as we've kind of seen the last few years with the difference in the way we've been able to execute the offense because of the changes in the rules, it's become just more and more difficult. And not just the perimeter blocks, which have changed kind of incrementally over the years. Just where you can cut block and where those blocks have to come from, and with undersized, smaller players on the perimeter, that was always a way for us to be able to not feel like we were completely outmatched out there, being able to get people on the ground. And what really changed, I think, this year was not being able to block the linebackers in the box. We've been able to loop tackles or take slot backs up there to them, or bring the fullback out of the backfield to block a high pursuit scraping linebacker and get them on the ground. And the rules this year and going forward, as they are right now, we can't do that. And I really saw it affect. I saw it affect the execution of the plays and really what we were able to do, and we just need to find a way to be able to spread the field again and kind of neutralize defenses that are physically superior and fast, and so felt like it was time for us to try something else. And we're not going to be different in philosophy. We still want to run the ball. We still want to have option elements in what we do, but just felt like from an execution standpoint and a presentation that we needed a change. And I really feel like this is going to be a positive change for us. And Josh Lynn, who had been the coach at Nebraska Kearney, I actually interviewed him a year ago for the offensive line position when Sanga Tuateli took the job, and we were really excited about Sanga. And anyway, he impressed me just in the things that they were doing, from the standpoint of the option game from the gun, and how they really took plays that were under center plays and were able to execute those from both under center and in the gun, and they really transitioned completely to the gun. So I was intrigued by that. And so Coach Thatcher has been the offensive coordinator for Josh the last 3 years, and he's got an air raid background, played for Hal Mummy at New Mexico State, which makes it a really interesting mix. It's a guy with an air raid background who's
Right.
been gun run, gun option schemes as a coordinator the last 3 years. And when I talked to him, I just was really impressed with him, and I knew he was the right guy. He's got a great scheme, not complicated so much that there's going to be a huge learning curve, and our guys are completely learning a new sport. But complex enough, and a variety of both run and pass plays that I think will allow us to be multiple enough that we're not going to be just sitting ducks, and we won't be like everybody else. I think there's enough variety in it that it's going to make us different. And I felt that those elements were important. He's just a really smart coach. And along with Matt Drinkall, who has been on our staff since 2019. And, I hired Matt from Kansas Wesleyan 4 years ago, and he was a guy that already had a following. And I mean, there are coaches all over the country that continue to call and meet with Matt and talk football with Matt, because he's just really innovative and a terrific football coach. And I think, here's 2 Division II coaches that aren't, maybe probably a little bit unknown, but I think 2 really terrific football coaches. And so matching up those 2 guys and their philosophies with Coach Thatcher and Coach Drinkle, I think is going to be a really good mix. And I'm excited about it. I'm energized and really looking forward to getting out there this spring. It's not going to look very good when we get started next Wednesday, but hopefully 5 Wednesdays from now, it'll look a lot better. And when we get to the fall, we'll have everything in place and be able to execute well.
And Coach, I did have the opportunity along those lines earlier to interview both Coach Thatcher and Coach Drinkle. So I did get a lot of really good insight, as well as our listeners, to the new offense. But from your perspective, what do you see as the biggest differences that fans will see next season compared to the triple option that you guys have run in the past?
Just the way that we're structured, having a quarterback standing back there in the gun with 1 or 2 backs back there, perhaps no backs back there. More formations where we're really spreading the field, and we've condensed our formations, and really that the big need for that was to try to get those linebackers inside the box blocked, and they're really the most difficult guys in the under center option game to block. We didn't want to give them free access to the perimeter, so we would bring those receivers in, and a lot of times there's 22 guys in a pretty small box, and I think we'll look a lot different. But I've been a part of the option offense starting with Coach Johnson in 1997 since 1997, and even early in my career back 1989 when I GA'd for Coach Johnson at Hawaii, we were running the under center option. So I've had a lot of experience, and this is a big change for me, but I feel like my job is to best position our team for success. And I could see the way that the rules were changing the game, and just the direction that I felt like we needed to go to take our program up a level. And you can't remain the same. You never remain the same. It's cliche, you're getting worse or you're getting better, and it's true. You just don't stay the same. So I always want to strive to become better and be the best we can be. And our players are excited about it. I think it'll change our recruiting a little bit. Just the different types of players, the body types we get at some of the positions. Certainly, there's a lot of guys in our program that are going to be a fit for what we're going to do this spring and this coming fall that fit perfectly. But I think moving forward, as we bring guys in, there'll be some different body types at different positions than we've been accustomed to. So those will be some changes maybe as well. Maybe not as noticeable, but certainly for us and internally there's some changes.
Makes sense. So, along those lines, when it comes to quarterback, right, you're graduating 3 quarterbacks this year. Bryson Daly got some snaps last year. I assume he'll be in the mix. But other than that, the quarterback position is kind of an unknown to everybody out there in the fan base. And just knowing, too, that it's going to maybe take a different type of quarterback than it would have taken a year or two ago to run the offense. Could you let the listeners in a little bit on kind of who's going to be in the quarterback competition and what that's going to look like?
It'll be interesting that not only were there 3 quarterbacks that graduated, they were the top 3 quarterbacks. So they were the number 1, 2, and 3 on the depth chart. And all 3 of those guys started games this past season. Obviously, Bryson played some. He has not started a game, but every time he's gotten in there, he's made some big plays, some big runs, and I'm excited about watching him play this spring and seeing how he transitions to this new offense. I think it's going to be a good fit for him. Zach Mundell was a freshman this past year, and actually we had him fit into the game plan going into the Army-Navy game as a slot back. And unfortunately, he had a really bad hamstring injury in the practices leading up to the game, and he wasn't able to play. But really explosive guy, and I'm excited about watching him this spring and seeing him compete. Alon Mitchell is a guy that's been in the program for a couple of years. He's in the same class with Bryson, and he really had a good offseason. He's athletic and quick, and so looking forward to watching him. And then there's just a handful of other guys that are kind of unknowns that we're going to find out about. And then we'll have some guys coming from the prep school that have some experience, at least in the program, obviously no experience in the offense, and then some direct freshmen that'll be coming in from high school, all of whom are going to be developmental guys. So that's a position that is ultra important in every offense, certainly in this one. And so we'll find out a lot this spring, but I think it really is going to play itself out through the spring and the summer and the preseason camp. But I think we've got some good candidates.
Awesome. And moving to the other side of the ball, Coach, defensively, you lose a lot of productivity and leadership with Marquel Broughton graduating, Andre Carter graduating. Both of them potentially have shots at the NFL. We'll get into that a little bit in a minute, but there's some additional productivity that's graduating as well, as happens every single year. This isn't unusual, but as far as up and coming players to replace Marquel and just some of the productivity, both in the run defense and pass defense, who should we be looking out for in spring practice and as we head into preseason camp in the fall?
We do have some guys coming back, and that's a positive. Up front, Chris Frey, Darius Richardson, Nate Smith. Those are all guys that have played a lot of football for us. Losing a guy like Kwabena Bonsu that's a big loss for us. He's played a lot of football, and Andre, as you mentioned. But we got some other guys that have just grown in the program, and we're excited about having Jimmy Charlo back. Q Hammonds on the back end. Cam Jones. Oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank here because I'm trying to run the whole roster through my mind. More at corner. Oh gosh, we got on the defensive line. So a guy that I'm really excited about is Trey Sophia. So we're not sure if he's going to be an outside linebacker like Andre or a defensive end with his hand down, but he's a long, build a little bit like Andre. And so, guys like that are in the program that have been developing, those are the guys that eventually become players. Andre Carter has had a great career here, had a great junior season. Unfortunately had a few injury issues this past year, which slowed him down in terms of productivity, but he played on the scout team as a freshman. So
Yeah.
he's he's a guy that really develops. So hopefully Trey's going to be a guy like that. And there are others, but to have a guy like Jabari Moore and Cam Jones and Q Hammonds and Max DiDomenico, those guys have all played in the secondary. They've all got experience. So it's not, we're going to miss Marquell, his leadership and just the energy that he brought. He's a playmaker, but the next guy has to step up. And hopefully, one of those guys on the back end back there, whether it's Q or Max or somebody else, is going to step up and make those plays for us. And it'll be hard to replicate what Andre Carter did as a pass rusher. I mean, he's a good player. That's why he's going to be a, probably top 3 round draft pick.
Right.
But eventually they graduate. So I'm excited about the next group of guys and really looking forward to the spring and watching those guys as they compete.
Yeah, and piggybacking on talking about Andre Carter, super unique pro day coming up for the program because of Andre's kind of high draft status and the potential for him to go in the 2nd or 3rd round. Kind of a unique situation from what we've seen versus other pro days at West Point. What does that exposure do for the program when it comes to recruiting and just kind of getting some good positive publicity for the program?
I can't even begin to tell you the impact that it makes, not only for our program, but for this institution and for the United States Army. It's just incredible. And we've got our NFL Pro Day tomorrow. So there'll be Andre and a handful of other guys that are seniors on our team that are going to time and test for the pro scouts that are here. But we're going to have 25 different scouts here from 22 different teams. I don't know if that's ever happened here.
Yeah.
And I mean, that by far, that's the most we've ever had. So, they're coming for one reason, because they want to see Andre, but they're going to get a chance to see those other guys. But I mean, that they're here because he's a guy that obviously is a high round draft pick guy and well thought of and a productive player. And so I'm excited for him. I'm excited for all of our guys, and that it's just awesome to be able to talk to people about that, whether it's prospects or alumni or former players. It's great to tell that story, and I think it sheds a light on this program and on this academy in a way that we can't do through advertisement or throwing our own opinions out there.
Absolutely. Last question, Coach. With spring practice getting ready to start up here in the next week, what's your number one objective coming out of spring practice? What would kind of make spring a success in your opinion?
Just improvement, just daily improvement. To have a better football players at the end of spring than we have at the beginning of spring, and to have a better team, more prepared to execute in the fall by the end of the spring than we did at the beginning. And we're not going to get everything in. We're not going to be right where we want to be able to play a game at the end of the spring, but I want us to improve. And there's a lot of guys that have played. I mean, there's guys like Leo Lowen and guys like Tyson Riley and Isaiah Alston, and there's names up and down the roster. Cole Talley and Quinn Moretsky, and there's a bunch of guys that have played a lot of football for us. So there's going to be guys that have some experience coming back. They're going to help lead these guys that haven't played as much and help them improve and maintain the standards and hopefully provide the leadership that we need and push everybody in the program to try to improve. And guys are excited. This is the time of year that everybody gets to compete for the job, for the number one job. In the fall, the scout team gets divided at the end of preseason camp, and often that kind of stays that way throughout the year. But in the spring, everybody gets to compete. We don't split scout teams. Everybody's given their best effort to try to push themselves to the top of the depth chart. And that's what makes it fun. And guys are excited to be out there, and coaches are excited to be out there and evaluate, especially the young guys who we haven't seen so much of. And so if we get better as a team and we get some individuals to improve and we can manage to stay healthy, then I think it'll be a success.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Coach Monken. Appreciate your time. Best of success to you in spring practice. Army fans, this has been Joe Iacono with GoBlackKnights.com, along with head coach Jeff Monken of the Army Black Knights. Go Army, beat Navy.